Chapter 1. The Mysterious Invitation. Samantha had always been a curious person. She had a passion for exploring new places and learning about different cultures. Her adventurous spirit had led her to travel all around the world, but there was one place she had always wanted to visit: the Amazon rainforest. When she arrived, she was struck by the beauty and vastness of the forest. She knew that it would take more than a few days to explore it all, so she decided to hire a guide to help her navigate through the dense jungle. Her guide, a local man named Carlos, had grown up in the rainforest and knew its secrets like the back of his hand. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, Samantha was awed by the incredible biodiversity that surrounded her. She saw giant trees with roots that seemed to stretch for miles, and heard the chirping of exotic birds that she had never seen before. But there was something else that caught her attention: a faint humming sound that seemed to be coming from deep within the forest. Chapter 2. The Enchanted Garden. Samantha asked Carlos about the humming sound, but he seemed hesitant to talk about it. He told her that there were many secrets in the rainforest that were best left undiscovered. But Samantha was determined to find out what was making that sound. The next day, as they were walking through a particularly dense part of the forest, the humming sound grew louder and more intense. Samantha could feel the vibrations in the ground beneath her feet. She was getting closer. Suddenly, they came upon a clearing in the forest. In the center of the clearing was a strange, glowing object that seemed to be pulsating with light. Samantha was fascinated by the object, but Carlos was terrified. He told her that they needed to leave immediately before something terrible happened. Chapter 3. The Mischievous Fairy. Samantha was torn. She was curious about the object and wanted to investigate it further, but she didn't want to put herself and Carlos in danger. She decided to take a closer look while Carlos waited at a safe distance. As she approached the object, she felt a strange energy coursing through her body. She could see patterns of light and colors swirling around her, and the humming sound was now so loud that it almost drowned out all other noise. Just as she was about to touch the object, a voice spoke to her, a voice that seemed to come from deep within the rainforest itself. The voice told her that she had been chosen to protect the rainforest from those who would seek to exploit it for their own gain. Chapter 4. The Magic Mirror. Samantha was stunned. She had always cared about the environment, but she had never thought of herself as a protector of the rainforest. But as the voice spoke to her, she felt a sense of purpose and determination welling up inside her. She turned to Carlos and told him what had happened. He was skeptical at first, but as Samantha recounted her experience, he could see the conviction in her eyes. Together, they decided to explore the rainforest and learn as much as they could about the plants and animals that lived there. They met with local tribes who had been living in harmony with the rainforest for generations and learned about their customs and traditions. Chapter 5. The Secret of the Tree. As Samantha and Carlos continued their journey through the rainforest, they became aware of a growing danger. Large areas of the forest were being cleared by loggers and developers, and the fragile ecosystem was being destroyed. Samantha knew that she had to do something to stop this destruction. She rallied the local tribes, and together they formed a coalition to protect the rainforest from those who would harm it. They staged protests and lobbied government officials to enact laws to protect the rainforest. Chapter 6. The Forbidden Room. As the sun began to rise, Alice found herself wandering through a dense forest. The trees towered above her, their branches stretching out like skeletal fingers against the sky. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Suddenly, she heard a rustling in the bushes. She turned to see a pair of glowing eyes staring back at her. A low growl emanated from the bushes, and Alice knew she needed to move fast. With a burst of energy, she took off, running deeper into the forest. She could hear the creature behind her, its growls getting louder and more ferocious. But Alice was determined to make it out alive. Chapter 7. The Riddle of the Sphinx. Alice didn't know how long she had been running, but eventually she emerged from the forest and found herself on the edge of a cliff. The view was breathtaking, but she had no time to enjoy it. As she turned to run back the way she came, she realized the creature was right behind her. There was nowhere left to run. Without thinking, Alice jumped off the cliff, plummeting towards the water below. She closed her eyes, bracing for impact, but instead of crashing into the water, the sudden gust of wind lifted her up. She opened her eyes to see a magnificent winged creature holding her aloft. Chapter 8. The Sorceress's Lair. The creature set Alice down gently on a nearby hilltop. She looked up at it in awe. It was like nothing she had ever seen before, a beautiful, majestic creature with shimmering scales and iridescent wings. As Alice stood there, taking in the creature's beauty, she heard a voice behind her. "Welcome to the land of the dragons," the voice said. Alice turned to see a group of dragons gathered around her, each one more magnificent than the last. She had stumbled into a world unlike any she had ever known. Chapter 9. The Labyrinthine Maze. Over the next few days, Alice explored the land of the dragons. She met dragons of all shapes and sizes, each one with its own unique personality and abilities. She also learned that the dragons were in trouble. A dark force had descended upon the land, threatening to destroy everything they held dear. Alice knew she had to help. Chapter 10. The Guardian of the Crystal. Alice set out on a mission to defeat the dark force and save the land of the dragons. She traveled far and wide, gathering information and allies along the way. Finally, she came face to face with the dark force, a powerful dragon with eyes that burned like fire. Alice knew it would be a tough battle, but she was ready. Chapter 11. The Dragon's Den. The battle was intense. The dark dragon's flames were fierce, and Alice struggled to keep up, but she refused to give up. With all her might, she struck the dragon with her sword, landing a fatal blow. As the dragon fell, a great light spread out from its body, filling the land with renewed hope and strength. Alice had saved the land of the dragons. Chapter 12. The Ultimate Confrontation. With the dark force defeated, Alice knew it was time to return home. She bid farewell to the dragons, promising to always remember their kindness and bravery. As she made her way back through the forest and into her own world, Alice couldn't help but smile. She had experienced something truly magical, and it had changed her forever.